Not you. Okay. It should be live now.
Okay.
It should be live.
You all ready?
Yeah, we're making sure it looks good.
We're
right
making
now.
sure the framing's right.
Okay.
We're
I
good.
give you about 1 more minute.
Yeah, no,
Okay,
you're good.
so
You're good.
fine.
That is so boring. Why is there so much?
You just have to move it over.
Is that on Facebook?
What's your Twitter? It's something. Oh, there we go. Move it a tad bit more. Like it's gonna look like you're cutting them off.
How much more do I have to do this? I'm gonna start.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
You're so
Start.
good.
You're good.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, everybody. Oh, this went off below. Okay, it is. Hi, everybody. Welcome to tonight's Harrisonburg City School Board Candidate Forum. Thank you all so much for being here on a Wednesday night. I really appreciate it. Our goal is for you to hear directly from the candidates, to hear what their views are and why you should vote for them. I'm Dr. Kara Dillard. I'm the Interim Associate Director at the Madison Center for Civic Engagement. The Madison Center, at the Madison Center, we really value this idea of a robust and civil public debate, just like you'll see here tonight, in a debate that really informs and engages people in our democracy. You can learn more about the Madison Center at jmu.edu/civic. But before I begin, I would like to introduce our moderators for this evening. I'd like to introduce first Bridget Manley, the Editor-in-Chief of The Citizen. Ms. Regine Ara-Nozarian and Ms. Sam Gabe, who are staff reporters from JMU's The Breeze newspaper. And I'd also like to thank, since I have them up center stage, I'd also like to thank The Breeze and The Citizen for helping to co-sponsor this event, and it wouldn't be without their help and support that we wouldn't have been able to do this. So I really deeply appreciate both The Citizen and The Breeze for supporting democracy and getting our candidates out in front of voters. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Hannah. In this forum, each candidate will begin with a 1-minute opening statement. Then we will ask candidates a question, give them about 45 seconds to respond. We will guide the conversation so that all candidates have a chance to answer and engage with each other on issues. We will do this at least 5 times, asking candidates questions on issues including balancing student and parents' rights, addressing learning gaps, and school resource officers, among others. At the end of this forum, we will give each candidate 1 minute to answer a closing question, which they can also use as a summation of their views and values.
We encourage candidates to be civil with each other and to engage the issues. We also encourage them to stay within the time limits so everyone gets a chance to speak. We also ask that you, the audience, hold your applause until the end so we can spend as much time listening to the candidates as possible. Our roles as moderators are to remain impartial on the issues, to manage time limits and provide equitable chances for candidates to answer, to encourage candidates to stay on topic and to be civil with each other. Candidates, during the Q&A section, we ask that you not answer until we recognize you. We will direct questions to you by calling your name. This allows us to better ensure everyone gets a turn to talk. We'd now like to welcome our candidates: Obie Hill, Corinne Jackson, Emma Phillips, Andrew Cohen, and Kristen Hoffman.
Prior to the start of the forum, the order of opening statements was determined by alphabetical order.
I'll remind each candidate that they have 1 minute for their opening statement. Our timekeeper will flash you a card when you have 30 seconds remaining, and then that is when time is up. At that time, please stop talking. Mr. Hill, would you please start by telling the voters who you are and what's important to you?
Hello, everyone. My name is Obi Hill. So glad that you were able to make it out tonight. Very happy to see you. I am running for school board, as you can see. I'm currently serving on our school board in my 4th year, the end of my term, and I'm looking for your vote on November 8th, next week, Tuesday, to be exact. And some of the things that are very, very important to me are, I feel like my time on the board, our time on the board, I feel like there's a need for us to restore the trust in families and schools. And I'll probably get to some of that a little bit later. And also to empower not only our students, but our families as well. And lastly, I'm a strong advocate for teachers and counselors on the front lines. Thank you so much, and we look forward to telling you more about myself.
Yes, hello. I'm Corinne Jackson. I'm running for school board here in the city of Harrisonburg, and thank you for coming out tonight. I've lived here for over 15, 20 years, and I went to Thomas Harrisonburg High School, and so I'm a product of the schools, and lived here for so long. But I'm running for school board because, one, I've been told by many people that they wanted me to run for school board, but we are looking to have a strong voice for parents on the school board. I think we all know across the country there's been a lot of division on our school boards. There's not enough transparency between our family members and our students and our teachers. Our teachers really need support. And I am a huge advocate for our teachers because teachers have had a shortage in the country for a long time. But here in Harrisonburg, our teachers deserve more. And I'm excited to run for school board to be their voice and advocate for them and for our families. So thank you for coming.
Ms. Phillips?
Good evening, everyone. I want to start by sending a big thank you to the James Madison Center for Civic Engagement and to everyone here tonight for the opportunity to speak with you. I'm Emma Phillips, and I'm running for school board because I care deeply about Harrisonburg City Schools and the people within them. As a mom to a Skyline 6th grader and a frequent volunteer in our classrooms, I recognize that we have something very special, something worth advocating for, and something worth preserving. You're going to hear candidates on this stage tonight tell us how broken our system is, and I want to assure everyone that this is simply not true. There have always been and always will be ongoing and evolving issues in education, but with a strong and experienced board, we keep working to ensure that HCPS equitably provides the very best possible education to the students that we serve. I'm ready to do that work, and I'm bringing with me a wealth of experience in STEM education and leadership that are going to be very valuable as we forge ahead and work to close educational gaps. Thanks for coming tonight.
Mr. Cohen?
Let me begin by thanking the James Center for Civic Engagement and all the other sponsors of this forum. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Andy Cohen, running for re-election to the school board. I'm in currently my 8th year on the board, serving the entire Harrisonburg community. I'm honored to have Kristen and Emma as my running mates because of our shared values and complementary skills. During my time on the board, I've been honored to serve as its chair on 3 separate occasions. I've also served as a leader in other school board committees. I represent the board on the committee to monitor the buildings at Bluestone Elementary, Beeland Road's Early Learning Center, and the still under construction Lockdown High. I seek to continue serving and help complete some of the unfinished business facing the board. In particular, ensuring that HCPS lives up to its strategic plan foundational commitment to equity for all students and our staff. Thank you.
Good evening. I'd like to thank the Madison Center for Civic Engagement and the Shenandoah Valley Bicycle Coalition for hosting us. our moderators from the Citizen of the Breeze and BreezeTV for streaming this event. My name is Kristen Laughlin, and I'm running for re-election to the HCPS board along with running mates Andy Cohen and Emma Phillips. We have chosen to run together as a team as we have many shared values, including placing student needs at the forefront of any discussion. I have nearly 20 years experience as a mental health counselor, most of which has been while running my own business in private practice. This school year rounds out a decade as an actively involved HCPS parent volunteer, as I have children in 9th and 6th grades. As board chair, I have been a leader in advocating for increased pay and compensation for our staff, actively working toward the soonest possible opening for Rocktown High School, and pushing for greater funding for programming in the arts, as this is a place where we are guaranteed a shared language. I hope that tonight provides some greater understanding of what our candidates stand for and how we will improve the lives of HCPS students and staff. Thank you.
We now move on to our moderator discussion section. Each candidate will have 1 minute to answer the question. We will then facilitate candidates responding and engaging with each other, with candidates getting 45 seconds to respond if they choose. The order of the questions was determined by random selection of names. Mr. Cohen, this first question is for you. On Tuesday, the school board's lawyers were in a court hearing about a lawsuit regarding parental rights and preferred names/pronouns within the student body. How would you balance between student and parental rights when it comes to making school board policies?
Well, I'm not in a position to comment on the lawsuit because we're just prevented from doing that since we are the defendants in that lawsuit. The issue of balancing between what you call student and parental rights seems to me to be way on the side of the students. That's the constituency that the school board has as its focus. We are committed to the health, well-being, and education of all of the students who attend school in HCPS.
Thank you, Ms. Laughlin.
Thank you. It's an interesting thing to think about the constituencies that we have. At my board orientation 4 years ago, I raised my hand to answer a question from the Virginia School Board Association that was training us, saying, well, we are responsible to our constituents, and they said, oh no ma'am, you are not. You are responsible to students and the teachers that you have hired. The students are our greatest concern, and they need to be at the forefront of every single decision.
Thank you, Ms. Phillips.
So our transgender population is currently protected under the umbrella of our non-discrimination policy. And this is a group of students that is very near and dear to my heart. And when I hear the statistics for their mental health, it terrifies me. LGBTQ students are 4 times more likely to attempt self-harm and suicide than their peers are. And if you can get adults who can affirm them and support them in their lives, you have the ability to shift that statistic significantly. As an educator, I think it's my responsibility to respect my students, and using their desired names and pronouns is a really simple way for us to show that we respect them. My wish is that anyone who works with this population recognizes the potential impact that they can have on these students, and that research shows that just one single affirming adult in their life can reduce that risk of self-harm by 40%. Of course, I think we should be erring on the side of our students.
Thank you, Mr. Hill.
I have a chord that's like everyone. Sorry about that. Thank you so much for the opportunity to answer this question here. And so I'll start with saying, similar to what Dr. Cohen mentioned here, we're not able to discuss much on the current case that we are currently experiencing. But what I'll say is that my first point when I made my introduction was I wanted to restore the trust between families and schools. And the reason for that is it's very important that as we are helping our students, we are also helping the families. That's very important. Our teachers and counselors, they are wonderful people. I worked in the school as a counselor myself, and I know how important it is to provide safety for students, but that is not at the expense of not having the families involved. If you look at research, as a licensed counselor, similar to Ms. Laughlin, I am always working to pull the families into the process of bringing about safety and health for our students. Sorry, I'm gonna put that.
Yes, thank you. In regards to the transgender policy, I know that we've all looked at the Youngkin policy, some of us have, looked at the Youngkin policy. I understand when Governor Ralph Northam issued his policy, out of the 133 divisions in Virginia, only 13 adopted that policy, Harrisonburg being one of them. So I understand that with this policy, I would assume that other school divisions would be able to relate more with this policy, what policy Youngkin has. And I agree with that, and I stand with that. I also understand that working in social services, mental health is an issue. It's something that can't be ignored. And the last thing we need is to harm a life of a child. Whether this child is in the trans community or the child is not in the trans community, every child does deserve to be protected. I've asked our teachers here in the city, what do you need from us as school board members? And they want us to make sure we have TDTs and mental health counselors to help with that issue. And I stand with them on that.
Thank you so much. I'd like to ask a follow-up question. I would like to ask the audience to refrain from clapping until the end. Thank you so much. I'm going to start with you, Mr. Cohen. Governor Youngkin introduced new policies regarding transgender students in schools. Would you want to adopt Youngkin's policies, yes or no? And if not, how would you push against those proposed new policies?
As I understand things, Governor's policy is not yet enforced, has been delayed for about another 30 days, while the Virginia Department of Education reviews the commentary that has been received, has been opened up for public comment. If that policy were to come into effect, I would not be in favor. I think it works in opposition to the policy that we currently have in force at HCPS, which is non-discriminatory and in favor of all of the children in our community.
Ms. Laughlin?
I too would disagree with Governor Youngkin's policy. We have a very inclusive, wonderful non-discrimination policy. We are watching out for all of our children within that policy. Something Mr. Hill commented on about bringing families in. Yes, that is part of what we do actually within the procedures. If a student expresses to a teacher, to a counselor, that they are questioning their gender identity, we wrap those students around with supports, with mental health support, and we evaluate, actually let the mental health and school counselors evaluate because they are the professionals in that situation. We let them evaluate and make sure that they can safely bring in family members. Governor Youngkin's policy does not allow for the potential unsafe situations.
Thank you, Ms. Phillips.
I don't support the policy put out by Governor Youngkin. I think that it puts our trans students directly at risk. And I think that it's important that we continue to support this group of students that we are currently supporting so well in HCPS. I think that it's important to recognize that each student is dealt with on a case-by-case basis, and that no one is trying to cut parents out of the process. In fact, they're very much trying to include parents in the process. There's a lot of fear around this topic, and I'm not quite sure I understand where it's coming from. But no, I would not support that policy.
Thank you, Mr. Hill.
Thank you. All right, I know I'm out of time. Okay, in this new policy, school staff would now be directed to defer to parents in concert with their children who may seek to identify with a gender identity, name, or pronoun that differs from the biological sex, who may, sorry. Sorry. In concert with children who may seek to identify with a gender identity, name, and/or pronoun that differs from their biological sex and/or legal name. I'm not going to finish reading this because we're running out of time. This is from the policy itself. School personnel shall keep parents fully informed about all matters that may be reasonably expected to be important to a parent, including and without limitation matters related to their child's health and social and psychological development. As a counselor, I have coordinated a process like this, several processes like this.
Mr. Hill, that's fine. I guess to follow up, would you support Governor Youngkin's proposed gender policy changes or no?
What I would say is after a meeting, as we had last night at our school board, and over the 25 parents and students and individuals who come out, I think it would be very disrespectful of us to the community to not consider altering, adopting, or some sort. The governor has put out in this policy that after this 30 days, which will be somewhere around November 27th, we would have to consider adopting this policy.
Thank you. Mr. Johnson?
Thank you. I totally agree with what Obie Hill said in regards to that. Now, in a scenario, she spoke with someone through social media in regards to a parent that had a trans child. And she said, you know, I have a child that has transitioned. However, we wanted to go through the name change process. Apparently, HCPS has a name change form. So they've also used that. So if the child and the parent goes through the legal process of changing their name, I think that it's okay for the school to agree with the new name change for that child if they want to go through that process. But to say we support all parents and support parents and then block information from the families, if we want to be welcoming and we want to have that good communication and to stop and have that trust with our families, it's important for us to communicate to our families in regards to all care in regards to their child. I think we'd be irresponsible to withhold any information. Great trust, in my opinion.
Thank you so much. That's fine. Again, I would please ask the audience to refrain from clapping until the end of the forum. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Now we will turn our attention away from this issue and towards controversial books. Ms. Phillips, you'll start off this round. Book challenges also were a major topic at last night's school board meeting. The group PEN America found that between last July and this March, local school boards across the United States banned nearly 1,600 books. That's higher than in previous years. What do you believe is driving that increase? And what are current school board policies up to the task of assessing book challenges?
So I was at last night's school board meeting, and what I saw was a group of parents who was really scared. And they were scared because they had been misinformed. They've been lied to about the content of our current libraries. Our librarians hold master's degrees in library sciences, and I trust them to curate a diverse collection of books with protagonists that look like all of our students. I think that if a parent is concerned with the books that their children select, they actually have the ability to go in and speak with our librarians and to speak with their teachers and their principals. We even have a formal policy by which a parent can challenge a book that they find inappropriate. There is so much misinformation right now about what's actually in our school libraries, and I urge Harrisonburg parents to not be duped by this. I volunteered weekly in the library, and I can assure everybody in this room that our libraries are safe places filled with really great, diverse books.
Thank you, Mr. Hill.
Yes, I agree, as well, not with everything that was mentioned there, Ms. Phillips mentioned there. But there's a policy, we have a complaint procedure, policy 734, which we have put in place to challenge any type of textbook. The school board is not able to ban any books. We have a process similar to our state, where if there's a book that, you know, a family feels it is inappropriate, it has obscene images and such, then we have the opportunity, we have a method of placing a committee together to review the book. My issue is if you've been following me on at our school board meetings, what you've seen me bring the question is how are the committees put together? There was a controversial book that was presented at many of our school board meetings, and there was a committee put together. I'm a school board member. I didn't even know the individuals. I know some based on titles, but I didn't know how the committee was placed together. It was a unanimous decision that was made. So as a school board member representing my constituents, of course I'm going to bring questions up. That's my job as a school board member.
Thank you, Ms. Huff. Thank you. Ms. Jackson?
Yes, could you read the question again?
Sure, absolutely.
Book challenges were a major topic at last night's school board meeting. The group of PEN America found that between last July and this March, local school boards across the United States banned nearly 1,600 books. That's higher than in previous years. What do you believe is driving that increase, and are current school board policies up to the task of assessing book challenges?
Thank you for the question. I'm trying to stay on topic. Yes, so also looking at the school board meeting last night, there was a packed room of parents from many cultures. Many parents spoke different languages, which you had translators, which I thought that was a beautiful thing. I guess it's been addressed that parents are scared, and I think that's quite shocking because I think parents are concerned for their children. I think that parents have the right to be concerned as far as the books that are in the schools. When there is a book that has images of sexual acts being performed, that raises concerns, rightfully so. Rightfully so, that should be judged. Rightfully so, that should be looked over. I do trust our librarians as far as committees being arranged. I think those should not be overlooked, and we should see who is making those committees and who's involved, and bring some parents involved as well. So,
Thank you. Mr. Cohen?
The opening of your question asked why I believe it's rampant across the country. It seems to me that there's a whole body of lies going around in our society about what is going on, what's true and what's not true. I think that's driving some of this concern that has eventuated in books being banned. Books being banned is a scary prospect to me. It has been in the past. It continues to be in the present. It will be in the future if it continues. Do I think that we have procedures in place? I know we have. We have a procedure that enables anyone in the community to question any piece of material, not just a book, any piece of instructional material, and raise a complaint about it. There's a very elaborate form that must be filled out, at which point a committee is put together of knowledgeable expert people to review the complaint. So the answer to the question is yes, we have procedures in place.
Thank you, Mr. Cohen. Ms. Laughlin?
Thank you for asking that question. I think this actually kind of even relates back to our previous topic. I think that across our country, we are seeing some groups put together some divisive wedge issues that pull the attention away from the important things that school boards actually need to focus on. We need to focus on teacher pay and compensation. We need to focus on lots of things for kids. As a parent, I had concerns about a book that my kid was reading in elementary school. It was Barbie. Not a fan of the body image things that go on with Barbie. We have it all, women kind of pieces of things. And I went in and talked to my school librarian because it was an easy thing to do. Parents have so many connections to our schools. We don't actually need to come into school board meetings and wave books around and show banned book lists. We don't need to do that. We have connections to our schools, and our teachers and our administrators want us there.
Thank you for the discussion, and we'll now move on to our next topic. Mr. Hill, we'll start with you. Sorry. What is the major challenge you see regarding equity in Harrisonburg City Public Schools, and what should the school board do to address it?
What's the last part of your question?
I'll just repeat the question. What is the major challenge you see regarding equity in Harrisonburg City Public Schools, and what should the school board do to address it?
To address equity in our schools. Well, just to piggyback off of the last question that you proposed to us is ensuring that we make decisions that are equitably created in the process of reviewing books, how committees are put together, transparency. I mean, the list goes on. It's very disheartening for me as a school board member on a board and seeing how the things play out behind the scenes. And I can have my own personal beliefs about things, but I'm here representing you guys. That's why I'm here. My kids, I have 2 kids in the school system, they're doing fine. Straight A students. I don't have to worry about them. But who I worry about are the underrepresented populations. And so when we talk about equity, we need to be equitable when we're making decisions, putting things together, and informing our public about what exactly is happening here.
Thank you, Mr. Hill. Ms. Jackson?
Thank you. It is important as school board members that we serve the community. The community does not serve us. So if a parent comes to the school board member or to the school board with a concern, it is our job to address those concerns in the most efficient way possible. For us to, as far as us making sure we have equity in our schools, equity means fairness. So we need to make sure that we have fairness with all students. Students who are economically at a disadvantage, students with disabilities. Understand we are at level 3 below state standards in our learning with our students with disabilities. So speaking with our teachers, what do they need? Because our teachers are burnt out, overworked, and underpaid right now, and they have been for some time. So making sure that they have fair treatment, so they have quality time to produce the work they need for their subjects. So I see that as an area for our teachers and students that need more equity.
Thank you so much, Ms. Jackson. Mr. Cohen?
Would you please repeat the question?
What is the major challenge you see regarding equity in Harrisonburg City Public Schools, and what should the school board do to address it?
The major equity concern that we have is that not each and every child is treated the same according to their needs. That's what equity is about. It's not about equality. It's about taking care of each child and understanding what each child, whether they're a young child or an older child, teenager, needs in terms of their educational progress and their social, emotional well-being. That's the equity concerns that we have to be attentive to, and that's why in the strategic plan that was adopted by the school board, equity is the first item of major concern, that every single child be treated with what they need. Maybe not what their neighbor needs, not on either side, but when each child is treated with the concern both for their educational progress, their social and emotional health.
Thank you so much. Ms. Laughlin?
Thank you for the question. You know, it's funny, we had a work session a few weeks ago where our the director for students with disabilities was presenting, and one of the little cartoons that she had drawn was in regards to inclusivity and students being left out. And in Harrisonburg, students are not left out. We have a very, very, very inclusive practices model. As Dr. Cohen mentioned, our strategic plan had equity at the forefront of things. We have an equity council. Harrisonburg does a beautiful job of making sure that we actually treat students as they need to be treated. I very often refer to the difference between the golden rule and the platinum rule. The golden rule is treat others as you would like to be treated. Right? The platinum rule is treat others as they would like to be treated. And that is, for me, a piece of equity.
Thank you. Ms. Phillips?
I'm so glad that you asked this because STEM equity is one of the things I'm really passionate about. I think equity starts at the beginning with understanding that not every student walks into the doors of our classrooms having the same experiences. The things that my student experiences are really different than some of those other children. And it's important that we are intentional about bringing students to the same level. If we want them to have equitable access to our learning opportunities in arts and in STEM and all the other amazing things that we do in Harrisonburg City Public Schools, it's critical that, again, we're intentional about closing those gaps in learning and those gaps in opportunities. I think that it's really important that we expand the relationships that we currently have with community partners because it's an excellent opportunity to help close those gaps. We need to direct the resources that we have toward the areas that they're most needed. We need to make sure that students have transportation to after-school activities and programs.
Thank you so much. I am going to ask a follow-up question. The school board in 2019 cited dual language programs as a major tool to address educational equity, and several board members, including some on stage tonight, said they consider expanding those programs. What would it require to do that? Mr. Hill, we'll start with you.
Well, I'm a great champion of dual language programs because I have both my daughters are in dual language. And so I have had the opportunity to see how much they've blossomed with this program. And so to answer your question was, how could we expand the program? Well, I think hiring staff who are able to teach the program. My wife was actually a teacher in our division, and she taught dual, the Spanish side of the dual program. And so I had the opportunity to watch her put together lesson plans and all that good stuff, as well as see her stressed out. But I think hiring teachers who are able to get through some of the red tape that may prevent them from becoming teachers. My time is up. Sorry.
Ms. Jackson?
Yes, regarding that, I think that it'll be great for us to expand more. Here at HCPS, I have over 60 languages spoken in our schools, and I love that diversity we have. So making sure we do have efficient staffing and helping our teachers to have all the material they need, the time they need, that they can use to help our kids in those programs. I think that'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Cohen?
Well, I think that one of the things that we would need to do and have already begun to do is recruit for faculty outside of the ordinary confines. Because right now, finding teachers who are equipped to deliver the kind of dual immersion program that we have is very difficult. So it's a combination of expanding our horizons in recruitment and perhaps even making extra pay available to induce people with those skills to join our program.
Thank you. Ms. Lockwood?
Thank you. My children are actually also both products of the dual language immersion program as 9th and 6th graders. We've been in it since kindergarten, and it's incredible. I would love for all of our students to have this opportunity, and I don't think that we should necessarily just limit it to English and Spanish. If we could expand it to Arabic, that would be incredible for so many more students, and yes, would be another big step toward equity. As my colleagues here have all mentioned, teacher recruitment is a real challenge. Our HR department has done exceptional things in the past, including having teachers, current HCPS teachers in the dual programs, go to lots of different places, Texas, Puerto Rico, to recruit actually. And one other piece is that our division has talked about homegrown teachers for a while.
Thank you, Ms. Lawson. Ms. Phillips?
Gosh, I love our dual program. My kid's in the dual program. He's been in it since 2nd grade, and it's such a great opportunity to feel what it's like to be in a room with people who don't speak the same language as you, to be the person in the room who doesn't understand what's being said. I think it's a really big growing opportunity for our students, and I love that we offer that here. I think that to see it expanded, and I'd love to see it expanded to additional languages, I think we need more money. I think we need more teachers and we need more money. If we're going to recruit and then retain those teachers who are high quality, who can deal with this sort of a program, we need to make sure that we can pay them well.
Thank you, Ms. Phillips.
Ms. Laughlin, we will start the next question with you. Virginia is ranked the third worst in the nation for the teacher pay gap, and low pay is a leading factor in the teaching shortage. How can Harrisonburg City Public Schools better incentivize people to pursue the field?
Gosh, that's a good question. My mom's a retired teacher, and I watched her struggle day in and day out. It is a very, very challenging profession. When we think about teacher pay and compensation, that's not where it ends. Because we just gave a 9% raise to across the board for our teachers and staff, averaged out around there, without getting into the numbers too much. That's not the only thing they need. They need time. They need time to be able to plan. And we heard that from them very clearly during the pandemic when they were online trying to teach. They also need communication and they need support. They need support all the way around, from the school board all the way down, and they need it all the way back up. And they need it from families too. When parents call and yell at you, it's a job you don't want to do. That's the case for administrators too.
Thank you, Ms. Phillips.
So I'm an educator of 17 years. I teach the STEM fields at Blue Ridge Community College and at JMU before that. And I know exactly how hard it is to teach and what it's like to feel undervalued for the work that you do. I fully support any opportunities that we have to increase teacher compensation, but I also recognize that it's one small piece of the puzzle when it comes to job satisfaction. I think it's absolutely critical that we're recognizing our teachers as the qualified professionals that they are, and that we're giving them opportunities to flex their creativity. I want to see us increase opportunities for professional development that allow them to connect with peers and to re-energize their teaching. It's exhausting to be in front of a classroom. And not only that, but our teachers are constantly shifting on their feet and adapting to meet individual student needs. It's really hard work. I want to see that they have access to opportunities and spaces within their days to recharge and reset.
Thank you. Mr. Hill?
Yes, I like this question here. To attract teachers to this field, during the pandemic, it was, and I'll speak for myself, but I would imagine my colleagues would agree with me. It was very difficult to sit on a board and experience what we all have gone through as a city, as a school system, because we lost some really qualified and high quality teachers as well as students. So I understand to attract teachers when we have a teacher shortage is a very difficult thing. It's like, what are you going to do? And so that's why I am a strong advocate, and a strong advocate of bringing our families together, our community together, because how are we going to attract if we're repelling? I think there's a lot of things we could have done to prevent our teachers from leaving. And so, sorry.
Thank you. Ms. Jackson?
Can you read the question again? I don't want to get lost in.
Yes. Virginia is ranked third worst in the nation for the teacher pay gap, and low pay is a leading factor in the teaching shortage. How can Harrisonburg City Public Schools better incentivize people to pursue the field?
Thank you for that question. I think with providing more substitute help, because I've asked our teachers, I said, what do you need from us? You've been going through a lot. You've been going through shortage before the pandemic. So coming through this has kind of intensified things. I've asked teachers, what do you need from us? What is your priority? And again, higher pay is part of the solution. They said that we can get paid more, but we don't have enough time for our materials to plan our lessons. We're still in a little rut. So more substitute help has been one of the number one subjects brought up from our teachers, that we need more substitutes to help, especially education, special education. The Virginia Department of Education said most critical areas for teacher shortages is elementary education and pre-K to 6 and special education. So making sure we are efficiently staffed in these areas is really important. We have areas in our schools where teachers are literally leaving their classrooms to help other teachers in their classrooms. So there is a shortage. But we have JMU, we have EMU, we have Bridgewater Community College. We're surrounded by all these fantastic colleges, so making sure that we get their help, I think, will definitely help us. us going forward.
Thank you so much. I will ask one follow-up question. When it comes to schools funding, how adequately does the community of Harrisonburg provide financial support for the city public schools? I think I'll start with Mr. Hill.
How adequately? We went through a challenge just to get our high school, built, right? Or at least to initiate the process. That was the reason why I ran for school board initially. I served as co-vice chairman of the high school space study committee. And so at that time, we felt like they were delaying the process. And I was a part of a group before HHS2, and we were parents and grassroots organization, just put pressure on city council to approve the school. Now, the school does not have to be as expensive as it currently is, but we can blame that on the pandemic and also the delays that were put in place by previous councils. And so I'll say currently we're in a good place because we are now looking for opening in fall 2024. So as far as funding, I'm okay now, but we'll look at the new elementary school that we need built and how that all plays out, the additional things that we need to do.
Thank you. Ms. Jackson?
Yes, a lot of people in Harrisburg have brought to me their concerns regarding finances. We're putting our money. I understand that we're looking to building more schools in the future, an elementary school and another middle school. Bluestone Elementary School is one of the most expensive schools in Virginia. So many parents have discussed where are we putting our money, especially when our teachers are not paid very well, especially when we have school bus drivers, we're having a school bus driver shortage. And I mention these issues because this is what the community is telling me. And so I asked them, if we make sure we spend our money wisely and efficiently so we get our return on investment in the schools and technology towards our teachers, I think that would be worth our investment, putting that back into our schools.
Thank you. Mr. Cohen?
The short answer to your question is no. The city of Harrisonburg does not adequately support education. Every year up until the most recent one, when the school board superintendent have agreed on a proposed budget, we got pushback from city council. I've lived here 46 years, and I've always been impressed with how underwhelmed the community is with the services that they receive, not only from the education commission, but from others, for the taxes that they pay. Harrisonburg citizens, forgive me, you're undertaxed because the services you get are well beyond the taxes that you pay. I think that the city government could do a much better job in supporting education.
Thank you so much. I'm going to make one quick fact check to Ms. Jackson's claims. Actually, Bluestone is not the most expensive. When you look at the cost of school per student, it ranks 6th, and when you look at the cost per square foot, they rank 3rd. It gets tricky as defining an elementary school because if you look at schools that are just kindergarten to 5th grade, then Bluestone Elementary School ranks 2nd in the state in cost per student. And yes, 1st in the state when it comes to square footage. So technically ranking 6th and 3rd.
Where's the source from?
Sure, the source is WHSB. Thank you. Ms. Laughlin.
This is not just a 45-second answer, honestly. Budgets are complicated and complex. We used to get funding for capital improvements from the state, and those were cut a long, long time ago before my kids were born. We just don't have the kind of funding that we need for capital improvements. When it comes to our annual budget, yes and no. I wish that we could do something more than just a needs-based budget, but every year it is a needs-based budget, and we have to cut really important things out of it, and that's a shame.
Thank you. Ms. Phillips?
I think that across the board in the country, we're being asked to do more with less. And I think that running schools costs a lot of money, and making the improvements that we need within our schools costs a lot of money. I like to see the school board continue to work with City Council to make sure that we're not just dealing with annual budgets that cover the bills, but give us room for growth and development, which I don't currently think they do.
Thank you. Ms. Jackson, you will begin by answering this next question about school resource officers. The community task force members that examined the role of school resource officers last year were divided over the issue of whether those officers should be in schools at all. What is your individual position on whether city's police officers should be assigned to serve in schools?
Thank you for that question. I do understand. I went to the Harrisburg Police Department and I spoke with the school resource officer, the one that runs it, myself. I don't know about you, but I'm tired of division. When I went to school here, I had a school resource officer and I had no problem with him. I understand that racially our country is divided and it breaks my heart. I spoke with our teachers and our teachers said, Corinne, we would love to have school resource officers in every school because we don't have one in every school. We have around, respectfully, 4 school resource officers around. And so they work with night patrols, they work with traffic control, they work with security. And at a time of a crisis, it's important to have them there. Our teachers want them there, our families want them there. They're there to protect and to defend. And our school resource officers are a friend to our students. I've spoken with our superintendent, he stands with them. I understand we have school board members that don't stand with the school resource officers, but they have my full support. They work hard for our community, and I respect them for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cohen.
I am supportive of the program that we have in Harrisonburg. I think that the school resource officers are a valuable part of the team. I think it's often the case that they're misunderstood in terms of what their roles are. We have recently undergone a major change in the memorandum of understanding between HCPS and HPD, and outlined and detailed exactly what the expectations are for the school resource officers. And I'm probably exactly on the same page as my predecessor in terms of saying families in our community seem to be in favor of them, the teachers seem to be in favor of them, and that's constituents who put us where we are in our policy stance.
Thank you, Ms. Laughlin.
So I have a great relationship with, in fact, the SRO over at Skyline who was interviewed for the DNR recently. We exchange emails back and forth. He picks on and jokes with my kids on a regular basis. And it was not him, but it was another SRO from Skyline who came over to Smithland Elementary School when a parent with a gun came into my kid's school to have lunch. I was on the other side of the country, and I cannot even express to anyone in the room what that felt like. I was really thankful that the SRO was able to be there, and that because that parent wasn't going anywhere. Multiple people, including the administrator, asked him to leave, and he did not leave when he was done. I don't think that he was going to do anything to anyone, but he felt like it was his right to have it there. Of course, it's against the law to have a gun on school property. But boy, it is a really hard choice to have police officers in our schools, because I know that not everyone has the same experience that I do.
Thank you. Ms. Phillips?
I think Harrisonburg City Schools is in a really good place with their relationship with the local police. And I think that school resource officers are an important part of the team, along with our school's mental health team, and that they work together to make sure that our students and our faculty feel safe. And that's what's really important. So I stand with them.
Thank you. Mr. Hill?
Yes, so I served on this SRO task force that led to us renewing our MOU between HPD and HCPS. And so that was a great process that I had gone through. At the time, the nation was in uproar about getting rid of our SROs. At the beginning of that conversation or our committee, I was opposed to having our SROs outside of the school, but going through the process, it opened my eyes and helped me realize that there was a poll that was done. We had about 25% of our students who did not feel comfortable with SROs in the school. And as a licensed counselor working in human services, I understand that process because I've been with families where they've had a police officer removed a child, right? Because the child was in danger from a home. And you can imagine if that child had siblings watching that, how that could taint their mind about officers. And I wish I had a lot more time.
I am going to ask a follow-up because you all seem to be in favor of keeping SROs in schools. And so my question is, if you believe that SROs should remain in schools, what role should they play? What responsibilities should they have in schools? How can they be more transparent in how they're engaging with students? And how do they gain or regain the trust of students? Sure, Mr. Hill, please go.
Thank you. So there was an article that was put out in the DNR this past Friday, and it was like, it was an article done on Tony Herms. He's an SRO at Skyline. And he said, quote, he is a resource for parents. He was not in the quote. A resource for parents, teachers, and students. And so I think it's very important that our students see them as that, as well as our staff, because that's important for them to be able to connect with the 25% of students who may not feel comfortable with those individuals. One of my recommendations coming out of that task force was if we can pull the 25% to the center of the conversation and get a better understanding of why they feel that way, and then we can build out our program from there.
Thank you so much. Ms. Jackson?
Yes, certainly to regain trust, if there has been some areas where trust has been broken, I understand that, I really do. And I've actually asked our school resource officers, well, what do you see in the schools? Have you gotten a lot of feedback and pushback from students? And they said that, we've actually asked about dressing in normal uniform. If it makes our students feel more comfortable, then we've actually considered doing that. Some parents have also talked to me about setting up metal detectors. I've asked them about this occurring, we really honor our students and we have a good relationship going, so maybe that might not be an option. So it sounds like to me that there has been good communication in making sure that the students are comfortable and that the resource officers are comfortable is good, and I'm glad that we have that transparency between them.
Thank you. Mr. Cohen?
Well, as I said a moment ago, we have recently revised the memorandum of understanding between HCPS and HPD. And the responsibilities of police officers when they are serving as SROs are well detailed in that new memorandum of understanding. They're not there to discipline children. That's the responsibility of other staff. They are there as protective personnel. They are there as part of the community. And I would hope that the 75% of kids who have valued their presence continue to do so and share with their peers the good things that the SROs do on their collective behalf.
Thank you. Ms. Laughlin?
Our SROs are helpful in so many different ways. They do connect very frequently with families. They connect with students. You can ask an SRO a hypothetical question. A school counselor can do that. An administrator can do that. A student can do that. Hey, what if this is happening in my household? Just what if? And that is a wonderful resource for our kids and our families. Our SROs are instrumental in the threat and risk assessments, and we've had a few of those. As far as rebuilding trust, they go out of their way to do some really goofy things. I know Officer Herms told me yesterday that he was in a TikTok challenge for TikTok. He had to do a TikTok dance for the cheerleaders at a pep rally at Skyline a couple weeks ago, and I'm out of time.
Thank you. Ms. Phillips?
My brother is a police officer out in Portland, Oregon, and they have a pretty progressive police force, and they understand that trust needs to be at the center of all of their relationships. I agree that our school resource officers need to play. They need to play with our kids. They need to serve as resources for our parents and places where people can go safely with questions. I was at a middle school orientation where one of the school resource officers was sharing information on internet safety and cell phone safety. And those parents were so grateful to have somebody right in front of them who could answer the questions about things that they didn't understand and things that they were scared of. I think it's really important that they continue to serve that sort of role and build the trusting relationships that we need in schools.
Thank you, candidates, for a spirited discussion about critical issues facing Harrisonburg students. We now move to our closing question, which will allow you to tell the voters why they should vote for you. Our question to you is, what do you see as the most consequential barrier facing Harrisonburg City School students, and how will you address that barrier? Each candidate will get 1 minute for a closing statement. We will start with Ms. Phillips.
Sorry, could you just read that one more time?
Yes. What do you see as the most consequential barrier facing Harrisonburg City Schools students, and how will you address that barrier?
Thank you. I think that the most consequential barrier for our students is inequity. I think the fact that they're coming in with very different life experiences that allow them, or that prevent them from getting the same thing out of our educational experiences is a challenge. And I think that we need to intentionally go after those areas of inequity and to make sure that they all have the opportunity to access all the wonderful things that we have in our schools. We have an amazing arts academy. We have an amazing STEM academy. We have a new high school that we're building. All sorts of really, really exciting opportunities. But if students can't access that because of their home life or because of the things that they bring into the classrooms with them, then we're doing them a disservice. I think we need to focus on that, and I think we need to close those gaps.
Thank you. Ms. Laughlin? Thank you for the opportunity to be here to speak to everyone here and at home and to be able to have a lively discussion. I have to piggyback on Ms. Phillips' answer of inequities. One of the things that is a great predictor of graduation rates is being involved in extracurricular and co-curricular activities. And the bus driver shortage that we've experienced across the country has had a huge impact on our students being able to participate in after-school activities, some things like On the Road Collaborative, where students get to explore lots of different opportunities, career enrichment, things like participating in marching band and other things involved with the arts. If you don't have a ride home, you can't get there. You can't participate in the thing. Lots of students, lots of families rather pick up the slack, but we need, this is not exciting, but we need buses. We need bus drivers. That is one huge way to solve a number of inequities. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Mr. Cohen.
This is going to sound like there's a lot of echo in the room. Start with the word equity. I think that we could do more to equitably educate the children who are part of Harrisonburg schools. We have high ideals. We haven't met them all. We're in the process of working on them. Some of those challenges of treating everyone equitably can be better met if we had the financial resources to enable us to do that. But when teachers have to do more than one ordinarily would expect them to do, it's hard. It's very difficult. So I'm not sure that the students are personally aware of that barrier, but it's a barrier that works to the detriment of us being able to treat every student with equity.
Thank you. Ms. Jackson? Yes, thank you. So equity, of course, is an issue. I understand that speaking with our teachers and people in the community, we've recently had a shooting at JMU, and I spoke with the teacher, and she said she actually taught several of those students here at HCPS. And she said, Corinne, I know those students involved in that issue, they did not do well in school. And so she sees a common trend of Black kids saying that because I'm Black, I'm not going to do well in school. And it is installed in our kids that because of the color of skin, they're not going to achieve well. And I think it's important that if we eliminate that barrier, if we can eliminate that division, I understand that CRT wasn't a subject of this review, we're going to talk about that tonight. But if we can eliminate that and say all kids will do well, I think that's important.
Thank you. Mr. Hill?
Thank you, Bridget. So I just want to read something here. So our nation received this 2022 National Assessment of Educational Progress. So it's NAEP, our NAEP report. It's like our nation's report card. And that exam is fourth, and they create scores at the national level. And for the first time in 30 years, fourth grade students in Virginia have fallen below the national average in reading and barely above the national average in math. Our national scores for eighth grade students in Virginia have also experienced a significant decline in reading and math. I'm sure some of you are familiar with this. Within our division, we have 9 schools currently, 10 on the way. But we have 2 of our schools that were accredited with conditions in regards to our standards of learning. And so I say that to say, it's very important that we remain focused on education for our schools and for our students. As a board, we provide a quality education. And something that I'm concerned about, being on this board for the 4 years, I hope that you'll vote for me. But even if I am not voted in office again, I'm concerned that our students are potentially, they run the risk of being politicized. We need to keep the politics outside of the school and keep the focus on education for our students, because our black and our brown and our students are separate.
One quick correction, just very, very quickly. The shooting was an off-campus incident, not at JMU. Just a quick correction. Thank you so much.
Thank you all. I would love for you to now give our candidates a round of applause. It is the good work of candidates coming out to a public square like this and meeting and talking your questions. That is what makes democracy work. So I deeply appreciate you from the Madison Center, from the Breeze, from the citizens. I deeply thank you for coming here tonight. These 5 candidates are running for 3 open slots on the ballot on next Tuesday. So with that, thank you again, and thank you to our moderators. And these candidates will be here, and staff from the Madison Center will be here as well to answer any voting related questions that you might have. But thank you again for being here, and good night.
Can we clarify one thing? It's not just next Tuesday. You can vote today.
That's true.
All the way through.
And Saturday, the registrar is open on Saturday as well. Vote early. And if you're a JMU student, you can vote on campus at Godwin Hall, and there will be free cookies. Sorry, we cannot provide you all with free cookies as well.
Even if you're not currently registered, you can register that day and vote provisionally.